Welcome back to In Focus Kentucky. On today's episode, we're taking a final look at Kentucky's 6th District congressional race where incumbent Republican Andy Barr will take on Democratic nominee Amy McGrath in what is shaping up to be one of the most competitive elections in America. We'll have more with Congressman Barr, but first, his opponent Amy McGrath appeared for a taping on In Focus recently and shared why voters should select her in this upcoming election. Here's a clip from that interview.
And I believe it's time to elect people that really just want to put the country above everything else, above their partisan politics. So that's what I want to do. I want to be a leader of integrity, somebody that folks can trust, somebody who's going to work for good jobs, real long-lasting jobs, and work for health care, not to undermine the system that we have. So I think those are the things that people care most about in this country.
And for voters, the potential voters who potentially think that some of the negative ads or negative tone of this particular race could be a concern to them, what do you say to voters in regards to that?
Well, listen, I understand that people are ready to move on with TV advertising. Boy, this race is probably going to come down to the most expensive congressional race in Kentucky political history. That's regrettable. That's why I've accepted all of these debates. I would much prefer to litigate these issues with my opponent on one-on-one debates where we could get into the substantive details of the policy differences that we have, and also debunk some of the mythology. I mean, my opponent talks about how she wants to reach across the aisle. Well, I've actually done it. I mean, I've been doing that for the last 5 years. You know, I'm a member of a bipartisan breakfast group. I passed bipartisan legislation with Kyrsten Sinema, the Democratic nominee for Senate in Arizona, to increase access to affordable rural housing and manufactured housing. I've co-chaired the bipartisan Congressional Horse Caucus with a Democrat from New York, and we're working together on bipartisan horse racing legislation. I co-founded the Global Investment in America Caucus, a bipartisan caucus with my friend Jim Himes, a Democrat from Connecticut, to spur and promote benign foreign direct investment like Toyota in Kentucky. I brought my good friend, Democrat Jimmy Panetta from California, to Kentucky because he wanted to learn more about our signature industries like the hemp industry, like industrial hemp, like horses and bourbon. And this was sponsored by the Bipartisan Policy Center, and we spoke at the Henry Clay Center for Statesmanship. So, I mean, the reality is not what you see in these attack ads sometimes. I mean, the reality is that, in fact, I was rated the most bipartisan member of the Kentucky congressional delegation. And you don't hear that in these ads. We have run a series of positive ads that feature my constituents and how our office has helped them, whether it's Molly Smith, a widow of 4 kids, and how the tax cuts help her, or William Perkins, a Vietnam veteran, and how we've delivered on constituent service with our Veterans Coalition for him, or Mike Cassidy, a guy that we helped who was in serious health jeopardy as a result of an injury during a hurricane. We extricated him from the Dominican Republic. You know, a good example of the tax cuts, where I went to camera and talked about why tax cuts are good. Or in this case, we've got Burl Perdue, the sheriff of Clark County, who applauds our work to increase funding for law enforcement to keep these poisons out of our community and secure our border in order to stop the gangs and the drug cartels from flooding our communities with heroin. These are actually positive messages about the results that we're getting. And then the other ads that we talk about, I think it's very legitimate and it's fair that my constituents know what my opponent is saying to her liberal donors in Massachusetts about what she thinks about them. When she says it's not necessarily about Kentucky, I think it's fair that my constituents know that, because that's a big difference. That's a legitimate difference between me and my opponent. She doesn't think this is about Kentucky. For me, it's all about Kentucky.
About a minute or so for viewers and potential voters who are on the fence of which side, which vote to make at the ballot box. What would you say to them on why they should vote for you on November 6th?
Well, what I would say to all of the constituents of this district, Democrat, Independent, and Republican, is that we've really prided ourselves on being accessible, listening to everyone and representing all of the people of this district. And as a result of that, we've gotten results. We've gotten results on the economy. That's what the priority of this district, the people of this district, was several years ago. And we've gotten results. A booming economy, the best economy in a generation, the lowest unemployment since 1969 in this country because of tax cuts, middle-class tax cuts, because of deregulation, because of reforms that have increased the Americans' access to the financial system. On combating the opioid epidemic, we're fighting, we're getting results on neonatal abstinence syndrome, grants to the Chrysalis House and to the University of Kentucky Pathways program. And we want the people to know that we're fighting for the people of this district, all of the people of this district, and getting results.
Well, Congressman Andy Barr, we really appreciate you joining us here on In Focus Kentucky and sharing why voters should select you as the congressman for re-election.
Thank you, Mario. Appreciate it.
Coming up, are you prepared to vote on Election Day? The Kentucky League of Women Voters joins us to explain what exactly you need to bring with you to your polling location, and also how to find that polling location and much more. That's next on In Focus Kentucky.